Hello and welcome to Get Yourself Optimized. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, and today I'm very excited to have Guy Sohm with us. Guy is a tantric teacher, artist, DJ, and blogger. He's a former festival promoter focused now on personal growth and awakening. He's consciously opening and deepening in his heart space as often as possible with the motto of smile, relax, and enjoy. Guy is also working on founding a yogic community with a jungle day spa and an animal refuge. Guy, it's so great to have you on the show.
G'day, buddy. Thanks for that intro.
Yeah.
So grateful to be here. Thank you for your time and sharing.
Well, I just love what you're about. I know that we met before at a James Schramko super fast business event, and James has been a guest on this podcast, on my other podcast as well, on Marketing Speak. So he's a friend, a mutual friend, and I am very grateful to have him mention your name. He mentioned you a few months ago, and I had just started on this big spiritual journey starting in January, and I don't believe in coincidences. I believe everything is for a reason. So when I saw your website after he mentioned you, and then it had this sacred geometry symbol of a Merkaba, I just thought, wow, I need to talk to this guy. I actually need to have him on my podcast. And yeah, so that's where we are now, is finally putting this episode into action. I would love to start by talking about what is it that attracts you to sacred geometry. Then we'll talk about some of the other modalities that you focus on, like Tantra and so forth, in a few minutes. But let's start with sacred geometry. And I know there are a number of symbols and structures, the Merkaba being one of them, which is also known as it's like a three-dimensional Star of David, also known as the lotus flower. I would love to know how you see sacred geometry and what the significance is of it for you and for your clients.
Great question. Yeah, sacred geometry has just captivated me. It's such a profound, amazing, like when you look at it, you just feel like, wow, so cool. And it's been practiced all around the world, and it's banned in all the ancient sites, and something that they use, the master artists used when they were painting, like Da Vinci, and they'd use this structure to get the golden ratio, which is that balance in nature where everything's in perfect harmony.
So, what are some examples of different sacred geometry symbols? Like the Merkaba is one, Flower of Life, Seed of Life, Metatron's Cube. Let's go through some of these.
So yeah, that's great. The flower of life is a very powerful symbol, and inside of the flower of life, you can create Metatron's cube. You have the tree of life. You have the seed of life, and then you have the Vesca Pisces. And the Vesca Pisces is like the building block. So that's when two circles come together, and their edges touch the center of each other. So it creates two circles, like the Audi symbol, which is two circles, and this represents the masculine and feminine coming together in divine harmony, and together they're creating the universe. So if you look at it as two balls, it's two balls coming together, touching the center points. The structure left in the middle is the shape like a UFO, and they say that's the shape of the universe. So the theory there is that in sacred union, two whole and complete individuals coming together in perfect harmony create the universe. So it's allowing you to tap into that source, into that oneness.
Oh, very cool. And the Merkaba, or in Hebrew it's pronounced Merkava or Merkava, is a three-dimensional structure where you have a pyramid facing up, pointing up, and then you have a pyramid pointing down that is intersecting halfway in the first pyramid. So it looks like a three-dimensional Star of David, and it's also looked at as a personal light ship, like an angelic light ship in New Age teaching. So is this something that you have focused on much? Because I see that's actually in the symbology on your homepage and the big masthead image, does that have a particular significance for you, or you just picked one of the sacred geometry symbols for that particular art that you're featuring on the homepage?
Yeah, the Merkaba has been something that's really, really got me. It's a symbol of the masculine. So the pyramid pointing up is going up to the sky, to the heavens, to the Father. And then the pyramid coming down is going to the Mother. So it's a symbol of masculine and feminine in harmony. So it's a structure that, yeah, I've just painted a lot, and I've created it. I've built pyramids out of copper, and I've done that. There's a meditation where you get your Merkaba body. So above your head about a foot is your star seed, and then below your feet about a foot is your earth seed. So they're the points of the pyramids. And then you get that body. In most people, it's just still. But you can activate your Merkaba body to spin. And they say that if you get that spinning at the speed of sound, that's how you can dematerialize. And that's what they believe. I've heard anyway.
So you haven't been able to dematerialize yet, at least.
Working on it. I work on being invisible, and it seems to get me.
That'd be pretty awesome. I do like the Harry Potter movies, but this stuff that sounds fantastical, science fiction or fantasy stuff, some of it actually it happened biblically, for example. A lot of people who are Bible scholars will say, oh yeah, people did live to 900 years or whatever back in the day, or they could levitate or whatever, walk on water or something like that. Like that was a thing, and it was in the Bible. It was something that wasn't just a metaphor. If you could maybe give us an example of a practical, I know that's kind of a loaded word, but a practical use of something like a copper pyramid. Because I've seen people do meditations and different kinds of healings inside of these big copper pyramids. What would be an application, like a practical application of a copper pyramid or some sort of geometric structure that you might have built?
Okay, so with the pyramids, the Giza, I've built a lot of Giza pyramids, and this one creates, when meditating in it, it centralizes the energy. So I can feel when I'm meditating inside a Giza pyramid, I can feel the energy coming into a central point. And they say the focal point on the Gizas a third up from the base. So surgeons will use these pyramids to put their surgical instruments in there, and it sharpens it apparently. They've found food in pyramids, which is like thousands of years old, and they can still see the structure of the food. So it preserves food. Yeah, it has a lot of benefits to being in that space. I feel like everyone should have a pyramid. The other one that I built, so the Giza is the golden ratio on the angle of the wall. And there's another one that is the length of the edge. So it's a lot taller pyramid. And this one, I found when meditating in it, my energy would rise up through me. I could feel energy rising. And that's known as a heart chakra pyramid. There's a guy who went crazy over those ones and built them all over the place. And apparently extinct plants were popping up and all sorts of things were happening. So there's, I think, a mystery there's a lot to these pyramids, I feel.
Interesting. Wow. Very cool. The seed of life is a particular sacred geometry pattern. What is that?
So that's like when you're building the flower of life, you're starting out with the circle, and then you're doing the Vesica Pisces, and then the intersection point where the two lines cross, you sort of do another circle with the compass. And I'd highly recommend for people to give this a go. Make it by hand, use a compass, work mathematically. And by doing this, you're going to integrate the wisdom, the codes of sacred geometry. So it's in the creation, and this is why I've made pyramids. And so the seed of life is then that next stage of development, from the Vesica Pisces to the first sort of layer around it.
Okay. And is there a particular meaning that goes with the seed of life, or is it just part of the bigger structure of the flower of life?
I'm not particularly sure what the seed of life represents.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, the Metatron cube is one symbol I know a bit more about, that I feel a particular resonance with. In fact, I got my wife a Metatron Cube necklace that's really quite beautiful and she loves. And I also got her just recently a T-shirt that has the Metatron Cube symbol on it. Now, Archangel Metatron, my understanding of the Metatron Cube is it's a device or a technology or something that allows Metatron to bridge the different worlds of the physical reality of our three-dimensional world with the higher realms like the angelic realm, and connect those two, bridge those two universes or dimensions, I guess. So that's my very limited understanding of the Metatron Cube, but there's just something about it that feels very powerful to me, and it just draws me in, and so I'm a big fan of it. And there's a Metatron prayer that I do every day that was given by Archangel Metatron to a psychic medium, Michelle White Dove, and she has that available on her website. And I was essentially led to that prayer, and I do that prayer every day, and it's very powerful, very protective. It includes putting 3 bubbles of protection around you and your loved ones, and putting yourselves in a Merkaba, then finally a final sphere around everything that is a sphere of God's white protective light. It actually works. It does. It's my little baby who is a toddler now. He had pulled down a piece of furniture, and it just missed him. And my wife had done this prayer minutes earlier, and he was unscathed from that incident, and he could have gotten really hurt from that. And I know that made a difference. I know it made a difference. So if a skeptical person is listening to this episode and they're still listening, well, congratulations on the willing suspension of disbelief, the fact that you're still listening. And if you have any belief whatsoever that prayers work, then keep listening, because there's a lot more to unpack here. And so this particular prayer is very protective. I've found it to be very very effective. And just give it a try for a couple weeks. We'll put a link in the show notes to that PDF with the prayer on it and the instructions. And let me know. Drop a line and let me know if this was something that had helped you. So do you have any particular prayers, Guy, that you want to share with our listener?
There's one that I do quite regularly, and it's called Metta. So I've done a number of Vipassanas, which I really recommend, change your life. And so Metta is what you get taught, I think, on day 8. And it's a prayer that you do, and it's just, may all beings live in peace. May all beings live in harmony. May all beings live with respect and love, and with kindness and compassion and generosity and mindfulness. May we all live sustainably. So I do that prayer very often. And I'm a strong believer in prayer. I've experienced a lot of things in my life which, just blows my mind. The synchronicities and the way that things fall into place. And, I'm a big fan of prayer. And it elates my spirit. So when I pray, it gets me so high. So, it's something I would encourage others to do. And
so let's talk about some of these synchronicities. We'll come back and talk more about Vipassana and other modalities, but I want to explore this concept of synchronicities a bit more. This is something I've talked a little bit about on a few previous episodes. The concept of, or the term synchronicity, I had recently learned was coined by Carl Jung, the psychoanalyst and kind of one of the founding fathers of psychology, the collective unconscious and all that. He was an amazing man. And synchronicity was something that he discovered by having happen to him, and then it was just a without a doubt sign, essentially. It was something that couldn't have just happened on its own. The odds of it happening were so infinitesimal that he decided to start doing research in that whole topic and created a whole book on it called Synchronicity and ended up coining the term. So I would love to hear some examples of synchronicities that have been kind of without a doubt signs, or clearly divine intervention, not just random chance for you.
Yeah, that's a good one. The first thing that comes to mind is like when I was younger, I felt like a tiger. It was like I'd set my sights on something and I'd go for it. And I'd just sort of like, just go for it. And my mum said to me, there's this whole practice of letting go and surrendering. And so like, oh yeah, okay, I'll give that a go. And so I just started to let go, keep letting go. And the more that I let go, the more things just fell in my lap. I didn't actually have to try to do anything. So I think this is where the synchronicity comes in. If you're in a state where you've totally surrendered, you're in the 0 point, you're like a magnet. You're creating this connection with the universe. You're not trying to put your ego or your will into it, but you're just allowing it to flow. And in those flow states, that's where synchronicity just happens all the time.
Mm-hmm. So what would be a specific example of maybe a recent example for you?
A recent synchronicities. I mean, the things that happen are like someone will say to me, oh, I need this. And then someone else will call me and say, oh, I've got that. Do you know anyone? And like within a few hours, what that person needed, this person's offered. And I just sort of bridge the gap. So I feel like a rainbow bridge sometimes. So sort of like those events that happen, like you think of someone and then a few hours later they call you. Like those sort of synchronicities happen a lot for me. I just have to think of someone and generally within a day or two, they'll call me.
Yeah, that happens to me a lot too. Like a lot. I just had a synchronicity happen to me just an hour ago. I was on a Zoom call with a friend that you may actually know. So we have a mutual friend, I bet. His name is Greg Merrilees. Do you know Greg from Studio One Design?
Yeah, he's a legend.
Yeah, he's awesome. So we were just talking an hour ago, right before this podcast, and his cute little dog was hit by a car just recently. It looks like the dog's going to be okay, but boy, it was very much touch and go for a couple of days in the emergency room, and it was a miraculous thing that the dog is going to be okay now, and it's he's healing, but it's going to be okay. My wife was in the background, and she heard Greg talk about his dog, and she's like, "Oh, CBD oil. You need to make sure that you give your dog CBD oil. That will help with the healing and with the pain." There was a reason that she knew about that, because I had intervened to save a stray cat shortly before leaving Tel Aviv. We were in Israel for 9 months, and now we're in Florida. But right before we left, there was a stray cat that I had befriended, me and my family had befriended, and she was injured or somehow not doing well. And I didn't know what was going on with her, but she was definitely in a bad strait. So I asked for guidance. The guidance I was given told me to take her to the vet. I've never taken an animal that wasn't my own pet to the vet, but I took her, and lo and behold, she had a broken pelvis. She had a pelvic fracture, and she would have died if she hadn't gotten treatment. Like, she was severely dehydrated. Even though there was water nearby, she was in too much pain to go to get that water. And so she's doing much better now. She's almost completely healed. Oh, she also had a dislocated foot. So this beautiful, cute little stray cat in Israel is very much on the mend now. And the person who helped with the healing process, cage rest and all that, recommended CBD oil. And so she's been giving the cat CBD oil, and it's really been helping. So that is why my wife Orion knew to like it was top of mind, like CBD oil. Greg, make sure that that your dog gets CBD oil. Oh, and then here's another synchronicity. Guess what kind of website his team had built not too long ago? A CBD oil for pets website. Like, what are the odds, right? And then I'm just doing a little bit of research and preparation for our podcast in between our calls, and I go back to your homepage, and what do I see on your homepage? There's an article about CBD oil for pets. Right? It was, I think, for cats specifically, but close enough. Like that was pretty wild. So those are examples of synchronicities. Oh, by the way, since you do have some information about CBD oil for pets featured on your website, what can I tell Greg about where to get CBD oil for his dog in Australia? Because he doesn't know where to get it. His client that has the CBD oil for pets website is not an Australian company.
I've got a mate, Paul Benham, and he's got a company called Elixinol. It's a really big company for CBD distribution. I'll link those guys up, and he'll be able to help him out.
Oh, perfect. See, a perfect example of synchronicity in action, live and captured on the recording. That's great. So thank you for that. Yeah, so let's talk about Vipassana and what the benefits are, what it is. I'm only very surface level familiar with the concept. It's a 10-day silence meditation retreat, and that's where my knowledge of it stops. Like, what is it really for somebody who hasn't experienced it? What would be the benefits? Why would they want to be silent for an entire 10-day period?
Okay, so Vipassana is the teachings that Buddha gave 2,500 years ago. And so it's a retreat that you go to. You do it by donation. And then you sit pretty much. You get up at 4 or 5 o'clock. You start meditating. Then you'll have discourses throughout the day giving you some guidance. And then you finish at about 9 o'clock. And pretty much I would go just for the food, like the best food you'll ever eat. So healthy, so delicious. And you can feel the energy. As soon as you walk onto that property, you just feel elated. It's like just such a beautiful energy. Like you walk in there and, really amazing. And so they teach you these techniques. The first few days, you just focus on your nostrils. So you're feeling the air coming in and you're just paying attention to that edge of your nose and paying attention to the subtle sensations. So the Vipassana is bringing you back to focus. So it's training the mind. And I believe that when you can train the mind, this is like your greatest asset. If you can master your mind, it's like your mind's not in control of you. You're sort of guiding it. And then it's a powerful tool. So the Vipassana allows for you to sort of pull back those monkeys and go, hey, sit back. And you're sort of trying to get those monkeys to do what you want them to do, rather than them sort of just jumping around and thinking that it's a circus.
Yeah, so the monkey mind is that chatter of all the cacophony of things that you're thinking of simultaneously and all the kind of busyness of life, instead of focusing on the bigger picture and quieting the mind and being receptive and open for messages from your angels, for example, or from beyond.
That's it. Yeah, the benefits of Vipassana are incredible. I've got a lot of friends that have done it, and it's changed their lives. Like my dear friend Kate, she had back issues for years. She went to Vipassana, back problems gone. Like you hear lots of stories where, I mean, you got to go through it. It's definitely a discipline. I love the discipline behind it. Like sitting still. If you can sit still for an hour with no movement, that helps your mind to really come into a deep place. And I've enjoyed doing these practices to cultivate my discipline. And as your mind grows, it goes from being sort of scattered, thinking about different things, jumping from one thought to the next, to an oscillating. So it's coming into being centered, focused, and then going back into a bit of scattered. And then you sort of get deeper and deeper. The more you meditate, the brain is actually, the neuroplasticities are forming together. So it's like creating a calmness, a stillness. So they're proving this. My stepmother, Charlotta, she's an incredible being. I'll introduce you guys if you want to have her on your show. She's a keynote mindfulness speaker. She's done a lot of study around this, and yeah, it's amazing what you can do through just meditating. Like I pretty much hit a point where my meditation's like a switch. It may take up to 20 minutes for my mind to slow down. I find that the area where you do it really affects. So you can build energy in a certain place, and that'll allow you to drop in deeper. Or in sacred places, if I'm at a special place, so suddenly I'll just drop into such deep energy and bliss and contentment. So yeah, it's something that I've found over the years. My mum got me onto candle meditations when I think I was 5. And yeah, so 37 years later, it's definitely a winning thing. So the Vipassana's taken my meditation to the next level by doing 10 days in silence, meditating all day. It just really does something to you. And the last one that I went to, it's like I didn't even want to leave. Like I just felt so good. And I believe it's created a space where it allows for you to just sort of be. It's like you're not looking for anything. You're just happy being, because you've reached a point where you're just experiencing the bliss of your body, and you've opened it up to a point where it is just sort of flowing with all this amazing energy, amazing chi.
Oh, that's super cool. How many times have you done Vipassana?
I've done 4.
4, okay. And the first time you did it, how old were you?
That was probably 15 years ago. That was hardcore. The first one is, I believe, the hardest.
Right, and then
I think a lot of people crack on day 4. It's like, oh, I got to get out of
here. So what? They just disappear?
Well, yeah, they unless the instructors can help them to stay. But yeah, I think day 4 is a bit of a breaking point. If you can get past that, you're sort of over the hill, and it just gets better. All I can do is encourage you. And I think the thought to make your mind still is not a practical thing to sort of have an ideal towards. It's more guiding and getting focus from your mind. So like I've been doing this for 37 years and my mind still sort of goes in different directions, but it's that continued practice that allows me to reach a depth of focus and peace and contentment that, yeah, just next level living.
You said you've done this for 37 years, so you've been meditating?
Yeah.
Okay, and you started at what age?
5. My mum put a candle in front of me, and she's like, sit with this candle and watch the flame and see that flame is a reflection of you. And so, yeah, like just started when I was very little, and the Vipassana really took my meditation to the next level.
Wow, so candle meditation, I hadn't heard of this. You just stare at the candle and you see the flame as a reflection of you. And like, what does that mean at a deeper level?
So I guess it's realizing the oneness. I'm a strong believer that there's just this energy, which I call God. You could call it source, true source, the universe. And that is in everything.
Yeah. And so when you were staring at the light or the flame, would you have any kind of out of body experiences? Would you have any kind of breakdowns or spiritual epiphanies, or would just bring you to a sense of centeredness, or you'd feel connected to God, to the creator? Like, I'm curious what this would be like for a 5-year-old to experience this. It's amazing.
It was very captivating. I'd just look at the flame and I'd just be so captivated by it. It's so magical. And this is actually the start then of my tantric path. So fire is a huge one. Fire and water are 2 of the big sort of elements. You work with the elements when you're doing ceremony and ritual. So the fire, this is really the start of my tantric path, is sitting with the flame and looking at it and becoming one with it and losing yourself. And I would tap into spaces where it's like it's taking your mind out of the thought process and you're just in a space of observation. And that, I think, really brings about some profound experiences.
Yeah. So when you say observation, it's the awareness of your awareness. It's seeing your mind and your body as not being you, but being of you, or being just something that you're inhabiting, right?
That's it. Yeah, you can sort of step back, like rather than identifying with emotion, you can sort of just observe it. So you see children will bounce back. They'll have something go on. They'll be upset. A couple of minutes later, they're just back on fire. And it's that sort of ability to roll with what's coming up. And it just moves with that presence. And when you come back into the observation, it's like you can just witness that, and you don't need to go into it and go into the story or the emotions. You can sort of put your toe in the water and just experience it, let those emotions arise, and then they pass. You don't need to get caught up in something if you are able to just witness.
Mm. And what does this look like from a gratitude meditation perspective? Let's say that you wanted to become more grateful. So how would that tie into the candle meditation?
I'm not sure about the candle, but I've done a lot of gratitude meditation, and one of the ones I do is like 20 things that you're grateful for, and then you go into one of those, like my partner Ruby Rose, and so then I just go into 20 things just about her that I'm grateful for, and it's like I believe if you can just accept what is and be grateful, you're winning. Like it's a good life. So I guess bringing the candle into that, you could just be sitting with the candle and just be grateful at the magic that is reality. When you're looking at that candle, just like losing yourself in, wow, like what a life force, this potential, this creation. One of my friends says, it's like you want to be the flame. You have the candle wax is your team, and they implement, and you just stay in the creative potential. You stay in that flow of the fire, and that allows you to really reach another level of amazingness.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so let's say that you are meditating in a forest. What are the extra benefits that you would get from that versus just sitting in your living room on a yoga mat?
So I spent a lot of time in nature. A few years ago, I spent a year traveling around Tassie, and I spent 7 months in the wilderness by myself.
Tassie is Tasmania for folks who aren't Australian, right?
One of the best places in the world, I reckon. Definitely the cleanest air and freshest water. Yeah, and that being in nature really does something. Like I notice when I camp, like I just feel so good. And I believe it's the proper oxygen. So when you're in a room, if you don't have two opposing windows open, you're sort of reducing the amount of oxygen in the space. So that's not ideal for your health. So being outside, first thing, you're getting a lot of oxygen, which is ideal. Then you're connecting to the earth. So there's a movie called Grounded and another one, the Earthing movie. And both of those sort of share the benefits of touching the earth, and that creates this electromagnetic field in your body to balance and for you to come into an ideal state. So when you're meditating in the forest, it's like you've got those bonuses of fresh oxygen, connection to the earth, the bird sounds, those natural sounds, I believe, take you into another level of connection with the divine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of biohackers are big into earthing or grounding as well. They see the benefits of putting your bare feet on the soil or in the grass and having that connection to the earth and to this huge electron sink, so that it somehow rebalances you. And I have not yet done much of that. I did buy a grounding pillowcase and a grounding sheet, and those connect to the power outlet to the ground socket, and I don't even know where those are. I think I tried that out for a few days, and then I don't know, I got distracted by something. This was a few years ago. That's a good reminder that I should do something. I do go outside in the yard and spend some time on the grass. We're in a really nice place that's on the water here in the Miami area, and it's a little freshwater lake. It's very peaceful. So like hanging out in the backyard there by the water. So if you could recommend a particular device or technology for somebody who maybe lives in a high rise or doesn't have a yard and ability to spend lots of time outside, would it be like a grounding mat, a grounding pillowcase, grounding sheet, some other type of grounding device? How would you suggest they get that nice dose of grounding?
Definitely, yeah. Get the mat or the sheets for your bed, and then you just plug it into the wall, and it grounds you there. If I was going to recommend a device, it'd be the biomat. I've got one, and it's got crystals. It's got amethyst. It's got grapeseed, copper, 7 layers of different things, and this creates negative ions and far infrared. So, and it also does thermal. And this mat, man, takes you to like just another world. Just lying on it, everyone loves it. I believe everyone should have one of those biomats.
Oh, that's cool. We'll definitely include a link in the show notes to that. So you lay on that to do like meditations, or you lay on that to sleep, or both, or like what's the biomat it's mainly getting used for in your house?
So I just jump on it anytime I want to just feel good vibes. And so the crystals, the amethyst, create the negative ions. And so you get negative ions when you're around waterfalls, when you're at the beach, at sunset, and those negative ions connect to your positive ions. So this is an important part of health and well-being. And then the far infrared is something you'd get with the early morning sunrise, which is something I like to do, is watch the sunrise and just stare at the sun at that first hand above the horizon. Apparently it's not so bad for your eyes. So yeah, I just connect to the sun and then do my practices, and it's just such a great way to start the day.
So you look at not directly at the sun after it's risen, but before it's up in the sky, like when it's just peeking out, and then you put your hand in front of the yellow part. Like what exactly are you doing there?
Just one hand width above the horizon. You don't want to look at it any higher than that. So it's probably like 5 centimeters on the horizon. But it's because it can start to damage your retina. It's just a yogic practice that I found pretty amazing to connect to the sun. I believe the sun's like the father, the source. It brings the light. It's like, So this bed that I've got, the biomat, does these things. NASA developed it, and they wanted to have those things in outer space so you could get those health benefits. So, it's a good bed. I recommend it.
So let's talk now about Tantra. I know that's something that's been an important part of your life, and it's part of your coaching and workshops and so forth. I believe that's part of what you do, right?
Yeah.
And you started Tantra, studying Tantra when you were at what age?
Well, like I said before, the candle meditation was my first introduction, from what I can relate, into that realm of Tantra. And it was I went to a workshop when I was maybe 24, and I was like, oh my God, this is my life. Like everything they talked about within Tantra, and I was just like, this is incredible. And it was so inspiring. I left that workshop and I'm like, I just want to share this with the world. So I started researching it, asking everyone questions about it, started traveling the world, and I hung out with tantrikas that were like 7 generations, and just all these different sort of knowledges around it. And it's just blown my mind, the potential there. So one of the big things I really like to share around it is the different paths. So a lot of people see Tantra as the red hat. So this is like the sensual, the sexual side of Tantra. And then you have the black hat, which is kind of cool because you're into SEO. And when I first met you and your book, I was like, oh my God, this is the coolest book ever. I was so taken by it. I'm like, but it's big. How am I going to carry this thing? So black hat, similar to SEO. In the black hat, it's the left-hand path, so it's embracing the shadow. So it's pushing the edge. It's always taking a different path. It's about perfection. It's embracing all aspects and just trying to keep expanding yourself. Whereas the white hat is the purest side. So the white hat is the right-hand path, which is the top levels of Buddhism. And this is the purest form of a doctrine where you meditate, you do your mantras, your mudras, prayer, you're working on your body being a pure vessel, so you're clearing. And and then you have the middle path, which is like a mixture between the two. And there's also then what they call the grey hat, the grey path of Tantra. You have within Buddhism Father Tantra and Mother Tantra. And after studying it all, I relate most to the Buddhist philosophy, and this white hat is what I really resonate with. I do dabble, and I'm probably more on the middle path there a bit, sort of left hand here and there, but overall I come back to the white.
You know, when you were describing those different hats, I definitely took to the white hat. Not just because I'm a white hat SEO, but because I see the benefits of being a pure vessel, of purity. Like when I started to pay extra attention to my thoughts with that recognition that not only my thoughts create my reality, but my thoughts are being heard and observed, and there are no private thoughts. Not that I was ashamed of my thoughts. I mean, I guess maybe there was a little bit of that, but mostly that I was recognizing how my thoughts are not my own. And when I am dwelling on thoughts that are not absolutely pure, that is corrupting the system. You know, it's like a hard drive that gets corrupted. And my Kabbalah teacher, he was explaining how it creates negative angels when you have impure thoughts or impure intentions, and then even though the actions that you might create would be positive, because the intention or the thought was not pure, that created that action, you actually create these negative or mischievous angels that are not of pureness. So you create angels with your thoughts, words, and deeds, and you might as well create really positive ones rather than ones that will tell you lies and not be terribly helpful. So that was also profound insight for me. So I'm very, very into being pure of thought, and wow, what a difference. It's like not only has my ability to receive messages massively increased because of this, but also the synchronicities have increased in just the impact and the frequency of them. And I don't know, it's just hard to explain, but it's like life is not just happening for me. You know that expression, life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. You know that expression, Guy? Well, there's another level, and Neil Cannon was pointing this out to me and a group of us who were doing some Wim Hof breathing the other day. He said he's getting to this level of realization that life is happening by me. So life happens for me, then life happens by me is another level beyond that. And that's where I'm starting to dabble in that realm because of the purity. And so I'd love to hear more about your experiences with that white hat aspect of Tantra. Because I only really thought of Tantra as a sexual, sensual sort of modality that's really about, you know, connecting with your partner, your sexual partner, and or soulmate in a deeper way. I was unfamiliar with this whole white hat side of it.
Yeah, it's so profound, and that's why I'm really driven to share this about the different paths, because I feel like there's so much wisdom and so much you can get out of Tantra, yet because the West portrayed it in this sexual format, understandably, but it's like it makes people, like you've said, see it from that light, whereas there's so many different paths. So the white hat being the purest form, it's like, yeah, you're making choices that are leading to purifying yourself, to living in honor, living in respect. And there's a saying goes, where attention goes, energy flows. So it's like you're saying before, if you're focusing on negative stuff, you're manifesting that. It's like rather than fighting war, it's like promote peace. It's you're bringing energy to whatever you're thinking about and whatever you're speaking about. So yeah, the white hat is that structured format. So Tantra is one of the best definitions I've probably come across is it's a practice to liberate yourself to then become enlightened. And depending on what you resonate with, depends on what path you might choose to go on that direction. And the yoga is a big part of that within the white hat, and it can be practiced in all of them. And the great yoga is a part of the Father Tantra.
So what was an example of something that was a profound turning point or epiphany or awakening that came about because of Tantra for you?
Probably came back to then the Vipassana. So sitting in meditation, the Vipassana would be white hat. So it's that sitting in stillness for long periods of time creates this. It like really does something to you when your mind turns off. It's like you come into source and you become the light. And by just being in that space, you just start to bliss out, and then you start to feel really powerful. This is what I've experienced. And yeah, so that practice of meditation just creates really, really amazing spaces. So that can be done in any of the paths, really.
So you've done this 4 times. What happens in between those times? Like, how do you get that magic back? If it's been like 4 years since your last Vipassana, are you doing silence meditation on your own for an hour each day? Are you like how do you recapture that?
I meditate every day, and there's another practice that I find really beneficial is the heart practice, which is something I believe maybe is the only thing lacking in Vipassana. So I've met people that have done maybe 40 Vipassanas, and like they're amazing beings, and they've done some incredible stuff. I've got a mate actually who used to live with me, Carlos. He's doing 3 months back to back. Like, I can't wait to see this dude when he comes out. And it's like that. Yeah, that continued practice, it integrates. So over the years, I found that if I don't meditate, then I don't feel as amazing that day. Like, I definitely have noticed a difference. But then over years and years and years of practice, you can miss a day and you still feel great. And it's sort of that, yeah, it's integrating that. So I do the meditation every day, a seated sort of Vipassana meditation. And then I also do my heart practice, which I just put my hand on my heart and smile like a banana. And I just like stay like this and just focus with my awareness around my heart. And at least 2 hours every day, up to 4 to 5 hours, is pretty much my first priority, is just to always come back to the heart. So there's a saying that the mind will, as the mind closes, the heart opens. So it's sort of just bringing that consciousness from the monkey. So just tell the monkeys, point down, smile, and relax. And I just stay with my heart. And that's another game changer. It's like I hit a switch, and suddenly I feel connected. Suddenly I feel so deeply peaceful. I feel this warm energy in my heart. And I just feel full of love. And it's just such a game changer doing the heart practice. So I do that probably more than the Vipassana. But yeah, just meditating, I do the Vipassana every day. I just love it.
So how many hours a day in total are you meditating versus the rest of the stuff that you do?
Usually from 2 to 5 hours a day I do practice. But that'll include a bit of Qigong. It's another thing I couldn't rate highly enough, like the energy you can build through your body doing Qigong. And you have some cosmic experiences after doing it for a number of years. Maybe you'll get it straight away. I taught an Indigenous guy, and he pretty much was doing it like a master straight up. And I'm like, wow. It's something that brings home the power of that Qigong and builds your vital life force. You're building the Qi, you're building it up in your Tantiem. And I think they're proving that that's like a battery for the body. That sort of belly area is your storehouse. And they're scientifically proving all these things which have been around for thousands of years in the yogi community. The Western community is now going, oh, yeah, this is all right. And it's like, yeah, it's so cool that science is backing it all now.
Yeah. So I tried some Tai Chi many, many years ago, just a little bit. The ball and those and the push hand. Just a very, very early stages of this. I didn't get very far before I gave up, but I just found it so slow. I was bored. I was just bored, and then I think about the concept of spending hours a day meditating, and it makes me want to scream, run for the hills. And it's just, I don't know what I'd do with myself for hours and hours each day. I don't know how I would find that time. I'm so busy. I'm building stuff. I'm reading. I'm studying. I'm working with clients, and I don't know. It seems kind of unrealistic, and I'm guessing that some of my listeners are also feeling that a little bit too. Hours a day meditating, like, what do you tell somebody who's skeptical or not skeptical, but just resistant to the concept of spending hours each day meditating?
Well, maybe it's not for everyone. It is something that, yeah, it is a process. And to start with, it can be not that great because you're training the mind. The ego wants to have control. So it's like you're slaying the ego through this process of meditation. So potentially you're going to have a bit of resistance there because the ego wants to stay in control. But the more you do it, the benefits just outweigh anything else. So all I could say is just give it a go. Maybe try for a week or even a month, just doing 20 minutes in the morning and at night. See how you feel. Like, I guarantee you, it'll change your life. Like, yeah, I've got a lot of friends who meditate, and just the personal experience I've had myself. And definitely it's a challenge. Like, I know how good I feel if I sit and meditate for an hour. Like, I know, like, oh my God, I'm going to tap into the most incredible energy, and the discipline then to actually do that every day, to make it a priority, because life can get busy and it's like other things seem like they're more important. But I would say the meditation is fundamental, because whatever you do from that place of stillness, whatever you do from that place of focus, you're going to be a lot more efficient. And I believe it's going to happen a lot easier.
Yeah, and some of the most successful people who have ever lived spent lots of time meditating and studying this sort of stuff. Like, I remember reading or watching a video or something that I found out that one of Steve Jobs' favorite books, maybe it was his most favorite book of all time, was Autobiography of a Yogi by Yogananda.
Yeah.
And he would give that book to every guest, every house guest or visitor who came to his place. And it was a profound, important book in his life. And Yogananda was a important teacher for him. So that goes to show the power of these principles applied not just in your spiritual life, but also in business and in your work life.
Yeah, I think it's really changed me. I mean, I've talked to James about this. I've studied a lot with James, and I really admire. Like, when I first met him, had this energy coming through him, and I was just like, "Who is this dude?" He's just like a powerhouse. I was standing in his presence, and I was just blown away. And yeah, so it's just like, and he loved me because he's like, dude, you're the chill master. Like, I just sort of would relax him. And from that first meeting, it's like, come and have dinner with us, bro. Like, and so yeah, we've become friends since that first seminar he ran here on the Gold Coast. And yeah, just that sort of through the years, doing all this meditations really pulled me back from that drive of achieving. And I believe I have enough now. And so it's like, I don't believe I need anything. I can just meditate and bliss out, and I'll still go out and, like, I'll try to help people if I can, or be kind, or spoil my partner or whoever's around. Really, I'll do good acts of service, but there's no drive to try to get heaps more. Like, it's just, I feel very content as, and then I just come back to my heart and I'm like, how does my heart feel? What does my heart want? And that can be a brilliant practice for people at home to try as well. Heart, do you have anything you wish to share with me? Like, just sitting with the heart and coming back to that, because the heart has this incredible wisdom. There's a group called HeartMath, and they have some devices you can hook up and sort of monitor the effects of where your heart's at and how this affects your well-being. If your heart's incongruent and just bouncing all over the place, you don't feel good. That's anxiety, that's depression. But if you can connect to your heart, slowing down your breath, I think, is a big one too. Like, this can allow you, through the parasympathetic system calming down and just focusing on your heart, you tap into this source, and that's the connection to all. And that wisdom, HeartMath has shown that the heart knows before something's going to happen. Like, they show pictures, and before they show the image, the heart is reacting to the image that's there, if it's negative or positive. So it's like they're proving intuition.
Yeah, amazing. And you know, I'm embarrassed to say this, but I have a HeartMath device that I have yet to open. It's in the other room, and I've had it now for 9 months. Yeah. No, 10 months, because I got it right before we went to Tel Aviv. So we were leaving LA. Sachin Patel sent it to me. And then I took it all the way to Israel. It was unopened the whole time we were in Israel, and now we're in Florida, and I still haven't opened it. I brought it back. I think that's a sign. Like, you're not the first person in the last few weeks to mention HeartMath to me. I think there was at least one other episode where a guest brought up HeartMath, so I think that's a sign I need to crack that open.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah. Now, a concept I think is really important for our listener, and I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on this, is that you are complete.
Yeah.
Right? We're such go-getters, at least I am, very achievement focused, trying to get stuff done, trying to get to the next level. It's not just in business and the work life, but also spiritually. Like, oh, imagine what I can do when I get to this level. Imagine who I can be if I get to this level. Imagine if I can quiet that monkey mind even more. Imagine what will happen if I actually use that HeartMath device. It's all about chasing after something. Whereas, what if I didn't chase after anything? What if I didn't succeed at anything else? What if I am just here and that's it? The place of this moment of progress but not completion. What if I'm already complete? So this was a message that I received actually today, that you are complete.
Oh.
And I want us to explore that a little bit more before we wrap up this episode. So you are complete. If you imagine your next lifetime, are you going to still have to launch that website or finish that book that you were writing or whatever it is? Or does that not really matter? And it's really about just learning and experiencing and being one with the Creator, recognizing who you truly are. What if it's just about the experience and not about achieving anything at all, and you are already there? What are your thoughts on that?
I totally agree with that. I think that is it. We are whole and we are complete. And it's only the ego that creates separation. And the ego wants things. So it's like it's trying to control the situation. Whereas if you can step back and control the ego a bit, and you're coming back to the body's a miracle. It has everything. It's thriving. It's a wonderland. So it's this sort of shift into the body. And then that oneness starts to happen. I believe, sure, there can be parts, fragments, maybe that through experiences we've disassociated or we've blocked something or we've suppressed something. And I guess this is the journey of emotional intelligence and personal development to really sort of dig deeper. And those challenges create the greatest growth. It's like, I believe anytime we have a challenge, it's the universe presenting a gift, and it's on the other side of what we could judge as a negative situation is something positive. So you can always turn it around and get a bit of a sign or some guidance through every experience and grow through everything. And from that place of completeness, I believe then we attract another being who's more complete. So that's that sacred union I was talking about before with the Vesica Pisces. And the sacred union is two whole beings coming together to create the universe. And yeah, so I mean, I think there is also, on the other hand, where when what you do and what you create can bring such fulfillment. Like when I saw your book on the table, and I was just like, oh my God, that is the coolest. Like you've created something there. That's a legacy. It's like you've created something in being of service that can help humanity and help individuals to achieve their dreams. And I think it's really important to sort of enjoy the journey, not making it about the destination, but it's every small step. And looking at it that way, you can achieve anything. If you want to break down something into small steps, you can sort of just go, okay, that's my first small step. I'm just going to go for that. And then another small step. And that's like that saying goes, the 1,000-mile journey starts with one step. So I do see that in your purpose, in your drive, this brings energy. Like if you can create something that can inspire others, like you have with your books, you inspired me. I admired that. I was like, this dude's a legend. And so that sort of creation process is very fulfilling. And I've created a lot of things like the treehouse, and I restored a 1951 Cyclops, and put on festivals, and I've done all these things that have brought me a lot of fulfillment. And then as I'm getting older, I'm going, well, I've created so much, and now I'm sort of just happy being. And in Buddhism, they talk about before death, if you can go beyond attachment, beyond desire, and be able to accept death, then this is going to allow you to transcend into the other realms. And I think that's a good model in your daily life. If you can look at what am I attached to? Can I let go of that attachment? So that attachment could be to achieving more, or it could be to your partner, or it could be whatever it is. But that sort of practice of letting go allows for things to come back into the flow. Like if you're trying to control something, you're strangling it, you're stifling the energy. If there's too much control, you're restricting the flow. When you let go and open up, it's like you're a channel, and it just channels through you. And personally, I found life's a lot easier that way. It just sort of comes through me. I go with the flow. Magic happens every day, and I'm just like, wow.
Yeah. Another thing that reminds me of is a teaching I learned last week, which is that change doesn't come from within. Change is actually a gift from the Creator. All you do is you get in a receptive state and a grateful state where you recognize that everything comes from the Creator, right? So you become, for example, more trusting, develop your faith, and also do good works, and that puts you in a receptive place for God to gift you change. I thought that was a powerful teaching for me, right? So it on one hand, it's putting the ego in its place, and on the other hand, it gives me the perspective to be more focused on the trust and the faith as well as the good works. So I'm always trying to work on doing good stuff in the world, but I now am doubling down on this idea of understanding that it all comes from the Creator, and I need to just be in absolute trust and faith.
That's so beautiful. That's totally where it's at, isn't it? That the more we can just trust and have faith, like that faith brings so much. And I think they've proven that scientifically. Faith is a beautiful thing. And the trust, it's like we know that if you can just accept what is and be grateful for it, we can just keep rolling with what is, and maybe working on not trying to change what we can't. There was a point before I missed with the Buddhism, and then the other one is resistance. So we can have resistance towards things, and it's like, I think as soon as we start resisting something, we're connecting to it energetically. So that awareness can help us to thrive through moving beyond resistance, attachment, desire, and accepting death.
Yeah, resistant. What you resist persists.
Yeah.
Right. Now you mentioned the treehouse. For our listener, Can you explain what this treehouse project was and why it's significant for you?
So I've always had a dream to build a tree house, and my mate, he's a tree doctor, and he was here at my place, and he's like, "Dude, let's do it, man!" And so we started creating this thing, and I'm really into conservation and sustainability, so I wanted to do everything with low impact as possible. So I recycled wood pieces from a house that got knocked down 4 houses down. I wheelbarrowed them over here, then I hand sanded them, like just trying to be as mindful as possible to look after the mother out there. And yeah, started creating this thing through the tree, which is a temple. It's a tantric temple, and it's got a level for every chakra. So yeah, just working with the tree to try to work out how am I going to create this with all the bits I've got. I'd get little bits of wood from the tree, the branches that had fallen off, and I'd cut them down to scale to the bits of wood that I had recycled, and I made a little model to try to work out how can I piece this all together. And it ended up then, yeah, with this creation of a 7-story temple, which has bring so much joy. Like it's another world up in that treehouse. Like, yeah, it's like you're in the air element, the ether, but you're also connected to the earth through the tree. And it just, yeah, like even though I'm in the middle of Babylon, I'm here on the Gold Coast at Mermaid. It's quite a busy place, but when I go in that treehouse, it's like, yeah, I'm in the jungle. I just have birds around me, and it's just such a beautiful experience.
It's like getting teleported almost.
Yeah.
That's cool. You showed me. We created a little video of you at the top of the treehouse there, and we'll include that on the show notes page. Actually, we'll have that included in this video, so folks can watch it as well if they're watching the video instead of listening to the episode. So I know we're out of time here, and I wanted to have you share where folks can learn more from you in terms of Tantra and sacred geometry and all the different modalities that you teach, and also potentially hire you as a coach or for workshops or what have you. How do they reach you? How do they work with you?
So probably the easiest one is just my personal blog, which is Guy, Guy Sohm, SOHM.com. And from there, I link to all my other blogs. I've got Great Awakening, Neo Tantra, In Mindful Service. I've got one that I haven't put up yet, but I will soon. This is high-ei.com. So yeah, just they all link from my personal blog. And from there, it sort of goes into a few different YouTube channels. And retreats is something I'm super passionate about. Kat Ford and I just ran a retreat on Stradbroke Island last year before COVID, and that was a very profound experience. A mutual friend of ours, actually, Greg Caesar, he came to that, and he was blown away by that. He's become a really good friend. I actually met him at James's conference. He was one of the speakers, and yes, he's a legend, and his kids are like the best kids ever. Like, oh my God. And Jules, what a wife. Like he's a good man. I really respect him a lot.
Yeah, he is great. So Great Awakening, great-awakening.org is also one of your websites. That's the one that has the Merkaba image on it. That's actually a piece of art that you created, right? That has the Merkaba in it? Yeah, that's amazing.
Everything on my website, I mean, pretty much everything I've created, the photos are all mine, all the images, art, I've done, everything.
Very cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, Guy, and thank you, listener. So now I'm curious to hear what you're going to do and be in your life based on what you've learned from this episode today. So send me an email or post a comment to the blog and let me know. We'll catch you on the next episode. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, signing off.
Thank you so much, very legend. Yeah, so I've built a treehouse, which is very sacred. And this treehouse has 7 levels. So it's got a level for every chakra. And I'm in the couch at the moment, so the solar plexus, it's yellow, and this is where I do my interviews and podcasting and research and all that sort of stuff. But I thought I'd just sort of show you quickly the view from this treehouse I've built, which is all local and recycled. So I've tried to be as sustainable as possible in this production, and I've done a lot of stuff by hand. And so I'll just sort of turn the camera around and you can see the view. There's mountains in the background. I don't think you can see that, but. And then it goes right around. Yeah, so this is a creation which has given me a lot of joy. I've always wanted to build a tree house, and so I did, and here we are.